Hi, welcome to Health Beat out of Independence Television in Clarkston, Michigan. I'm your host today, Dr. Barry Hobbs. Dr. Hink and Dr. Bennett are not present with us today, but today we have a special guest from St. Louis, Missouri, Dr. Anna Olivetti, and we're going to hear from Dr. Olivetti and her journey in this world of chiropractic here on Health Beat. I know that in the past we had done the other doctors' biographies, and Dr. Olivetti is a special chiropractor and a special doctor to me, because when I went to chiropractic school, she had done the first spinal class when I was a young student, and from there it really blew my mind and got me to understand how this body works and why chiropractic works, and helping people regain their health. So Dr. Olivetti, welcome to Michigan. I know that we just got you straight from the plane up here to Independence Television at Clarkston, and we are honored and humbled to have you, and we're excited to hear your story about this journey, and we should not wait any longer but to hear Dr. Olivetti talk about her journey. Go ahead.
So the first thing that really happened to me was my uncle asked me if I would want to travel to California to work with my cousin, who is a pretty powerful doctor of chiropractic out there in California. He, at the time, was seeing about 100 patients per day, and so he asked me to come out and work in his office. And I had no clue at all what that was going to mean, but I drove out there, and my first day in the office, I actually got to sit in the patient waiting room. And quite honestly, at that point in time, it really kind of threw me for a loop, because here I traveled 2,000 miles to work with him, and he puts me in the patient waiting room. And what I didn't understand was the incredible gift that he gave me, because that gave me an opportunity to actually see the full dynamics of an office. I was able to see patients and their testimonies and hear them and their talk off the side. I was able to see the system of the business. I was able to see the dynamics and the flow of the business. I was able to see his interaction with the practice members. But I think what really stood out to me also was the incredible duplication in the scripts that the chiropractic assistants were using with the patients. So whatever he said, they balanced him, and whatever they said, he balanced them. And I thought that that was an amazing dynamic for an office, because I was really excited about eventually becoming a doctor and doing that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So when you were out there, were you already, had you already graduated from a college? And you saw these business systems and the flow of the office, and that really intrigued you?
Yeah, that's a good question. No, I had actually only obtained an associate's degree from SIUE, and so that's as far as I went in that journey. But I knew that I wanted to be a doctor always. I also knew that for me, the most important thing was to help people get well within healthcare systems, but I was not wanting to do it through a general MD degree, because I really believed at the time that the body can heal itself. And so the chiropractic journey was definitely something I was interested in at the time.
Got it, okay. So what made you decide then to go to chiropractic school?
So within working in his office, one thing that he did for me was he cross-trained me in every single aspect of the office. And that's super important because in a lot of offices, when an assistant of any dynamic is not cross-trained, they get lost on a lot of the understanding of the principle of the work. And what he did for me was he cross-trained me, so I was able to live it and experience it day in and day out. So part of what he did was we had what was called powerhouse weekends, where he would take me to an off-site location and we would do what's called spinal screenings. That gives the public an opportunity for us to introduce our office and our personalities and our stories about the work that we do to the public. And in driving home from one of those, he drove by a facility that there were children coming out and they had masks on, and then there was adults with them that were in tears. There were bags of medications held in their hands, and I distinctly remember just completely looking off to the side, and I just started to really just get really upset. And I remember looking at him and I just said, Mark, I don't know how to do this. How do we get these people to your office? Because I know the work that you're doing. I know that you are getting these people well without drugs or surgery. And I think he at that point in time saw in me a greater mission, and he said, we're not going to get them to my office. We're going to get them to our offices. And I kind of just sat back a little bit. I was more or less in tears at the time. So after a couple weeks went by, Mark pulled me in his office and he said, what do you think about becoming a DC? And I kind of did that, you mean become one of you thing? And he was like, yes. And I said, well, quite honestly, I can understand why you're asking me that. And he said, Anna, your heart and your passion for people and your passion to help sick people get well is greater than anything that you would have to jump through in the school realm. Because in school, we have to go through a lot of different things that are challenges. And he said, your heart way outweighs that. And I said, you're right. So I got in the car, he gave me a book to read, and I had tapes to listen to from the developer of our profession, which is BJ Palmer. And I drove to St. Louis, Missouri, and made a decision to attend Logan College of Chiropractic.
Beautiful. So the unique thing that I'm hearing from your journey, different than Dr. Hinks and Dr. Bennett's and I's, is that we were patients at this. We had health problems and challenges,
right,
and then got into it. Whereas you had your cousin, Dr. Mark, that was a successful doctor in California, were seeing children, was out in public doing spinal screenings, and you really saw this man at work helping his community through this thing called chiropractic care. And it sounds like what I'm hearing too is that it really affected you whenever you saw the children with those masks and those bags and saying, hey, wait a minute, all right, we see the child over here in this arena doing this type of care, but yet I see the children in your office that's getting well under care, whether it's from, ear infections, colic and stuff. So you really had that burning mission and journey. And it can reciprocate with me because when I was in Try One at Logan College of Chiropractic, Try One to our audience is similar to being a freshman in school. Within the first month or first couple of weeks, Anna was doing spinal lectures to all the new students. She was just stepping up and doing it after hours after class to help educate us young students who were coming into school, teaching us, hey, this is what it's about. Because unfortunately, sometimes a lot of students that just first enter school, some people have never even tried chiropractic or had tried chiropractic, but the doctor had done mostly strictly nutrition and not adjustments.
Yes.
Where you were literally using pure chiropractic like Dr. Mark had taught you and doing the spinal screenings. And that's the challenges with our schools is that they teach us nutrition, they teach us physical therapy, they teach us chiropractic, but you were using the pure principles that our developers and founders gave us. And I can hear that compassion, and I saw that when I was in Try One, a freshman class, whenever you introduced it to me. And then here we are 20 some years later, and we're out and serving the public. And I know Dr. Olivetti has had her own little journey over the past 20 years, and now she's starting to step out. And this is why we're here at Health Beat, to help give the audience and community some answers to your health goals or challenges that you may have.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to follow up with Dr. Olivetti's story and her journey and what she sees in the future. Hi, and welcome back to Health Beat on Independence Television here out of Clarkston, Michigan. And I'm your host, Dr. Barry Hobbs, today, and we're going to follow up with our interview of Dr. Anna Olivetti from St. Louis, Missouri, an upper cervical chiropractor extraordinaire. And during the first segment, she gave you her journey about her years preceding up to chiropractic school. And now Dr. Olivetti is in chiropractic school, and we would love to hear her journey in school and then what she learned and what she gathered about health and wellness from chiropractic school. Dr. Olivetti.
So let's kind of fast forward to the first year. And at the end of the first year, I was very much wanting to learn how to build a practice, and I was very much wanting to learn just chiropractic, and I was experiencing very fast that that wasn't happening in school. And so at that point in time, a lot of anger was swirling up in me and a lot of confusion. So I went up to the 3rd floor, which is where the president of the school is, and I went into his office and I had several conversations with him. And in that, his wife, Linda, was in the office, and she kind of took me aside and spent some personal time with me and shared with me their journey and their vision for the school, and then guided me that if I wanted to do more of this work, I really should start an entity myself, and that I should bring speakers on campus that would help the students learn this work. But on my own personal side, I had really 2 paradigm shifts going on inside where there was the confusion was coming from. One of them being that when I started to read the book that Mark had given me when I left his office, I was understanding from the developer of our profession that there was a big difference in the lingo that we need to translate to patients, which is the importance of the getting checked in our offices. And that being said, the healthcare journey in a human body really comes from after the adjustment is applied. So I was seeing in multiple offices that the doctors were valuing the adjustment itself, and they were billing and charging according to receiving an adjustment. That was confusing to me because I knew that the healing power in the human body, which is where the real value system is in the innate intelligence and the power that the body has itself, and that is when the healing takes effect. So the confusion came from not communicating that properly to our patients. The second thing that was very much confusing me was the fact that we were doing this whole negative fear factor within the student body. We were taught at school not to take x-rays. We were taught in school that it wasn't safe to adjust a number of people or see a number of patients. The lingo and the whole persona of the school was to continue to refer out and refer out and refer out. So what I saw amongst my fellow colleagues, if you want to say it at that level, is that they were spiraling down a huge fear mode. And fear interprets into so many other facets of life that scared me in itself, and that is really what fired me up to start really taking a look at the journey that I wanted to take. So I went up to the library and I looked at the books that were provided by the developer of our profession, and the first book that I picked up was the chiropractic textbook by Ralph W. Stevenson. And the reason why I chose to get this book is really because of the name, because it says the chiropractic textbook. And I was like, wow, we actually have a book called the chiropractic textbook. And Ralph W. Stevenson, what he does in this book is he so brilliantly outlines the anatomy for the chiropractic adjustment and the misalignment, but he also outlines the neuroanatomy and the neurology. And that was so key at the point in time that I was in because we were learning neurology. And the neurology really explains what the human body does after receiving the chiropractic adjustment and the interference on the nervous system is removed. So when I started to read this book, I started to come alive and I started to understand what I really wanted to do in my own life and in my own practice for my own practice members. And I actually really started to have on my heart a very specific mission for students because I knew that they were fear-driven and I knew that this was taking fear away. The last thing that this book really did for me and does for our students is it provides the 33 principles of our philosophy and our the understanding of the work that we do. And that is so important because without having principles to ground us, we get to the point where we get confused, and where there's confusion, there's fear. And when there's fear, mistakes are made. And in the work that we do, we cannot afford to make mistakes, because we are working with the brainstem, we're working with the powerhouse of the entire body, and we cannot afford to make mistakes doing so.
Right, absolutely. So as I can hear, and as you could tell, Dr. Olivetti was very motivated from her previous experience with her cousin, Dr. Mark, about the business systems. And here you are, you go in and enter a chiropractic school, and something different happens. So, and then you're trying to figure it out. You're you're angry, you're frustrated. You go talk to the president, and throughout your journey, you realize, hey, here's these green books that our developer had published, and they give us the principles, a guidance for us to go through school. Because just like any other schools for our audience, whether you go to architect school or cooking school, although you may want to do one type of work, the schools have to teach you all the other things that the state boards, the national boards require you to do. And many times some students just leave that school doing what they were taught. Mm-hmm. And I tell practice members and patients all the time, states are different. So a school in California is going to be different than a school in New York, than a school down in Georgia. And our school in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, was teaching us a certain way, and it was a little different than the chiropractic green books, because that was a competing school, mm-hmm. the Palmer School up in Davenport, Michigan. And the principles within chiropractic and healing are written in there. And in school as a young student, whenever you come in, like you were hot with the business model. My cousin Mark was just seeing hundreds of patients. We're doing spinal screenings, and then there you are in school learning pathophysiology and cell biology. So I can understand why that was frustrating. So yeah, we love this journey. We love this passion you have, and now we want to hear where you've come from after school. So after the break, we're going to return with Dr. Olivetti's story. Hi, welcome back to Health Beat. I'm one of your hosts, Dr. Barry Hobbs with Hobbs Specific Chiropractic, and we are in our last segment of our interview with Dr. Anna Olivetti of the Specific Chiropractic Center. Dr. Anna just came in from St. Louis, Missouri for this recording. And so I was saying earlier, Dr. Olivetti gave a spinal lecture to me in chiropractic school, and it really answered my questions about health and well-being, because I personally was suffering with headaches and migraines. Chiropractic had helped relieve that of my headaches and migraines. And then I had questions, why? Why did this chiropractic adjustment help me, but my previous therapies and treatments by other doctors and practitioners didn't help? And so Dr. Olivetti and I do a technique within chiropractic simply called upper cervical chiropractic. And that's dealing with the brainstem and the upper cervical spine. So Dr. Olivetti, I want to hear, when you and I were in Logan, you were in the upper cervical work and the neck work, and we want to be able to explain to our audience why you got into that, and they had already heard why I'd got into that in Dr. Hink. But here you are in chiropractic school. In the previous two segments, we had heard about your journey in the business. But why did you get into this type of work within chiropractic? What impacted, what touched you?
I guess the first thing would be is that I started to read volume 18 of the Chiropractic Green Books, and in that B.J. Palmer very specifically describes about his journey of where patients would get to a certain level in their health care with what he was doing currently in his own practice. And then his question was, how do I help my practice members get to the ultimate level of health care? And he went back and did research and did this for over a number of years, where he actually stopped writing the green books and had other instructors step up and continue on with that part of the journey. But in going back and doing the research, he discovered that the brainstem is the control center of the entire body. And when there is interference on the control center, that it affects the overall health and the journey of sickness to health in the human body. And he did extensive research in the sense that he did a dissection of called the wet specimen, where he dissected a fresh cadaver and proved that the brainstem goes down between the first cervical vertebrae and the second cervical vertebrae of the neck. So in that being said, I decided to seek out a doctor that would be able to teach me this work, because I knew that there was a higher value to healthcare within our practice members. And honestly, in practice, and for my future journey, I didn't want to have patients walk into the office and only be able to provide them with a mediocre level of service. So I journeyed on to seeking out Dr. Kale, and he was in South Carolina, and I attended his certification program, which was a quite extensive program. And in doing that, Dr. Kale very much explained, I would say, every single question that I had along the lines of who, what, when, where, why, and how we are to apply this chiropractic to patients. And in doing so, the results that we can get is seeing the sick of the sick, and we can get them and work with them as a team member in enabling the human body to heal at its ultimate potential. So I was so fired up to train with him, because I knew even in his own practice, he was seeing the sick of the sick of the sick. And that's what I wanted. There was a very big distinction there for me of the difference in healthcare.
Yeah. So this is to the audience, if they remember too, Dr. Bennett was suffering with cancer. And when he was in chiropractic school, he was introduced to this special work within chiropractic called the upper cervical work, brainstem specialist Kale work, the B.J. Palmer work, and what Dr. Olivetti was talking about, the research clinic. And it really impacted us. It wasn't just about back and neck pain. It was the sickest of the sickest. So to the audience, that would be Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, just crazy medical things that were not, quote, getting well in the area of the spine that Dr. Olivetti is talking about, the brainstem. When you take that pressure off there, and we've talked about this extensively in some of the other episodes of Health Beat, how that brainstem is the fuse box of the body and it works. And so in your adventure, Dr. Olivetti, Dr. Kale was giving you those answers to those questions you had as a student. And I want to hear your first adjustment by Dr. Kale. What was that experience like? Because you're in chiropractic school, you're getting adjusted, but here you are in South Carolina learning the specialty within chiropractic. What was your first adjustment like by Dr. Kale?
For me, it was life-changing. At the time, of course, being a student, I was being touched by multiple students. I didn't really understand what my own body was telling me. I had 17 plantar warts on my right foot. I remember this distinctively. I had 13 plantar warts on my left foot. I had chronic bladder infections, and I had a lot of sinus issues. And immediately, and I sincerely say immediately, I saw instant results with that. And I made a personal decision, this was my own decision, to stop seeking out any type of care from anybody else beyond that point. There was a doctor by the name of Dr. Kessinger who was also training with Dr. Kale and working in his own clinic, who was doing the work, so I would travel 4 hours down to his office every Friday to be checked. But in our care, the most important thing is to not have to be adjusted, because if you learn the understanding of the power of the work that we do, when there is no nerve interference, then a person should not ever be touched. And so I really love that fact that for me it became a new goal, that I didn't ever want to have to receive an adjustment for the rest of my life. If I could hold this adjustment, I knew the power of my body was going to heal everything. And I saw it within my own body. It was incredible.
That's amazing. So to the audience, in the previous episodes we talked about this, but I'm going to review. We have the scanning and instrumentation to measure if there's interference to this nervous system or not, the brain communicating with the body. And what Dr. Olivetti is stating is that after this adjustment correction that Dr. Kale gave to her, that brain was able to clear up and speak to that bladder and those warts, which is pretty interesting because those items and functions are below the hips. And Dr. Kale worked specifically with the upper neck. But neurologically, this is why she's talking about the brainstem. And so to open that up and to clear that out is heavily impactful. And it also should be motivating to those who are sick and suffering with some conditions, diseases, to look into this work. and to dive into it just like we did as individuals, but also students within the chiropractic to say, what is this about? What is this upper cervical care? What is this about? And that's very impactful and powerful. I never knew that over 20 plus years, that was your complaints and that's what had happened.
Yep.
But you didn't go in for that correction. You went in because of the compassion and the business model that your cousin Dr. Mark had given you, and then the green books, the textbooks that our developer had written for our profession. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful testimonial today, an interview with Dr. Olivetti. And we want to thank you all for joining us here on Health Beat at Independence Television again. And we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.